chairperson is not feeling well. If she's unable to continue with the meeting, we will elect an acting chairperson. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Soleka. If I can check a department who's presenting it here, and then give me the rest.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members, colleagues from the Department of Arts and Culture, SA Table Tennis Board Chairperson and President and other accompanying him. Can I just indicate that, my name is DDG Khumalo. I am delegated to lead the team from the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, given the unavailability of the acting DG today, as has just been indicated. I am here, Chairperson, with the acting DDG for sport and recreation in the department, and that is Mr. Simpiwe Ncube, who is also accompanied by the Chief Director, Lebogang Mogwera, who is also from the sports branch in the department. We have colleagues from the Office of the Deputy Minister, Sivuyile, who is present in the meeting, Sivuyile Watani, from the Office of the DG, we have Nokubonga Ramalepe, who is also present in the meeting. That's the delegation from the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. Chair, as I indicated, there is the president leading the South African table tennis team, who would also introduce themselves once you give them the opportunity to do so. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, DDG Khumalo, President of South African Table Tennis.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning to the honorable members present. And also good morning to Dr. Khumalo and the team from the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. Our team is basically the executive of the South African Table Tennis Board in the names of the following, which would be Ajira Kaji, who is the Vice President for Administration. And you will find that all our vice presidents, we have a president and vice presidents only, and each of them have a portfolio. We have Ms. Audrey McDonald, who is the Vice President for Finance. We have Mr. Tabang Cheso, who is the Vice President for Competitions. I'm not so sure if Ms. Genevieve Lenz is here. She's the Vice President for technical. Then we have Ms. Rebecca Lukela, who is the Vice President for Transformation. I'm not so sure if I haven't seen her yet on the screen, but perhaps she is here. And then Mr. Sipho Vika, who is the Vice President for Coaching, and that's our team.
Thank you, President. Thank you so much, President.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes, yes.
My apologies, Madam Chair. We also received an apology from the Deputy Minister this morning. She will not be joining us due to other engagements. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Soleka. Honorable members, I do have one apology from the members, but I'm aware that Honorable Mamabolo was hospitalized yesterday, so surely I don't think he can join us. I'm not yet checked whether he is out of hospital or still hospitalized.
Madam Chair, Mr. Mamabolo is in the meeting.
Oh, thank you so much. I've seen him yesterday in the machines in hospital. Thank you so much. If there's no other apology except Honorable Malomane and Honorable Maringosi. Honorable members, I'm giving this time to the department to do so. Please take this on the screen as well.
Madam Chair, we have not adopted the agenda yet.
Yes, can honorable members adopt the proposed agenda? I'm sorry.
Chairperson.
Yes,
Chairperson. Yes.
yes.
My hand is up, Chairperson. Good morning and good morning to all. I move for the adoption of the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
I've seen hand of Honorable Mhlongo.
Chair, my hands has been up, but nonetheless, I wanted to.
I didn't see my apology.
Yeah, but nonetheless, get well. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues and visitors. Chair, I want that we must note the objection of the DA. I think, on a serious note, this is a standing meeting. The minister must be here, and this is the third, if not the fourth meeting that he's not here with an apology. I think DGs and DDGs cannot account to us as politicians. He must account to us as politicians. I think this must be noted that he must prioritize this meeting, so it's a standing meeting. Thank you very much, Chair. But we support the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you, Honorable Mhlongo. Honorable members, we note what the DA is saying about the absentees of Honorable Minister is going to be recorded. And thank you. And now the agenda has been adopted. Let's get to the next meeting. As we are aware that last meeting he was accompanying the president. Today we've heard where he is, but we note what you are saying, Honorable Mhlongo. Let me give now the department to take us through. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again, Chairperson. Allow me to then request Acting DGG, Mr. Ncube, who will take the portfolio committee through the overview from the department. He would lead that presentation and take you through. Thank you very much. Over to you, Simpiwe. Simpiwe, we can't hear you. I don't know whether you've started. We can see the presentation. Mr. Ncube?
Can you call him in his phone, please? He's taking our time.
I'll do so, Chair. Apologies.
I'm trying to link, but I'm not sure whether I'm visible now and audible.
It has been on the screen, your presentation. We missed you. You were not on the screen. You were not talking.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair, and the members of the Portfolio Committee, as well as the leadership of table tennis. as well as the leadership from the department. Apologies, Chairperson, for that glitch. Please accept my apology. I'm going to go through the presentation, Madam Chair, which is basically just the overview of the department on table tennis matters. Madam Chair and the members of the committee, the expectation, the way we interpreted it was that today the table tennis would be presenting on his annual report, which will also in part cover the matters relating to a financial report. Our overview would deal with the relationship between the department as well as table tennis and the support that the department provides. Chair, in terms of just the governance related matters, as a department, we noted that like many other federations, table tennis over the past couple of years have been impacted upon by COVID-19 in terms of their ability to really roll out their projects and programs. We also noted that at least on governance matters, they've been able to convene their constitutional meetings, such as the annual general meeting, as well as although they've had to do this on virtual platforms, and in the 2022-2023 financial year, the AGM, at the time of preparing this presentation, Madam Chair, one needs to indicate that at that time the Federation was still going to convene its AGM to then present the annual report as well as the audited financial statements. Chair, just to indicate that in the last financial year, based on the application submitted by table tennis, the department supported the Federation with the amount of 1.450 million, primarily to cover the Southern Regional Qualification Championships, their capacity building programs, the school sport programs, and other development programs. For the current financial year, 2022-2023, as had indicated earlier, the AGM of the Federation was planned at the time of preparing this presentation for the 5th of November. The indication, in fact, that the said annual general meeting did take place on the 5th of November, wherein then all the documents which form the pillars of governance, being the annual report as well as the audited financial statements, were concluded. These obviously are critical for us to be able to complete the process of transferring the funds to the department. So sorry, to the Federation. We have also noted, Chair, some of the highlights in terms of the work being done by table tennis, one being emerging as ranked number 6th at the African Senior Championships, which were held last year, which obviously shows that there is some good progress towards, at least at some point, occupying position 1, 2, and 3, or 1, 2, or 3 which would be much more desirable for the performance of the federation. The federation also this year, we note that they hosted the Southern Region Table Tennis Qualification Championships, which was in July for both women and men. And also there is work being done around the table tennis in schools, particularly focusing on rebuilding capacity in the area of administration as well as technical support. One of the highlights in the next few months for the federation will be the hosting of the 2023 World Table Tennis Championship in Durban, which is scheduled for the 21st to the 29th of May, coinciding with the Africa Month. The expectation is that some of the leading countries in table tennis, such as China, Japan, would also be, and Nigeria will also be participating at this tournament. The department is obviously in constant engagement with the federation to make sure that this event happens, and not just happen, but it is hosted successfully. Over and above, when looking at specific matters relating to school sport, yes, with COVID-19 having made things difficult for the federation to operate, the table tennis has continued to be part of the school sport program, and through the provinces, we have also, as a department, assisted in providing equipment and attire to schools and training of educators and community-based volunteers that are linked to schools to make sure that the code indeed is one of the code on the school sport program is played in schools, and it grows. The table tennis continues to be part of the Summer National Schools Sport Championships, which will be held in the next few weeks. This is where this is the platform really to assist the federation to be able to identify talent and be able to select players that can represent the country at various international and continental competitions. The focus in terms of the schools, the Summer National School Sport Championship is both under 14 and under 18 for girls as well as boys. And most importantly, to be noted is that the program also includes under 18 para table tennis for both boys and girls, for both boys and girls. In terms of the National School Sport Championship, we believe that this is a platform that assists in terms of the development of young technical officials as well as coaches, because it's a platform where experience and exposure can be realized as the federations bring in the wide range of personnel to stage and manage the competitions. Madam Chair and members of the Portfolio Committee, let me just indicate here that the latest report of the EPG has not been handed over to the minister by the EPG, and therefore it means it has not been published. Hence, we are still using the data which covered the period 2019. The latest report will cover the period 2020. So this information, though it may be outdated, it still gave us a good sense of where table tennis was, and it's the information that we use, we're still using to engage the federation. Madam Chair, if you allow me just to then go through the various, particularly the findings that were presented in the report by the EPG. That one, in terms of the board, it appeared to be well transformed, almost 100%, both that includes staff as well. And in terms of the national senior male and underage teams, the federation scorecard reflected 83% colored and Indian demographics and 17% Black African demographics. Obviously, one of the things we've noted is that consistently in a number of categories, there is 0% reported on white participation, which is something that the federation would seek to address, because obviously the transformation doesn't necessarily mean isolation of any. It is a balancing act. So it's one of the things that needs to be addressed by the federation. This similar but slightly different scenario in terms of the pipeline, so seen as being incomplete, reflecting only one under 18 team have reported at 100%. Colored and Indian, and then in terms of Black African and white reported as being 0. And so these are the things as well that have been noted, flowing from the report of the EPG. In terms of the national female senior and underage teams, with the male pipeline reflecting that it's actually incomplete. Only one under 18 team with a reported demographic of 100%. That is again colored and Indian, and 0% in terms of Black African and 0% in terms of white. The revised barometer of table tennis also reflects an unchanging Black African forward projection in terms of the charter targets up until 2030, which is something that needs to be relooked at, so that the abnormal situation that is reflected in this report can be corrected. Chairperson, Madam Chair, for some reason my laptop has decided to freeze.
Okay, you can talk to it.
It's not moving at all, so I can't even go to the next slide for me to see it. How could this happen?
Chairperson, can I talk to that last slide?
Yes,
Yes.
Even if it's actually not moving.
Yes.
The last slide is a continuation of the EPG report findings, as indicated by the acting DDG, and it specifically then gives the portfolio committee a sense of the category of the coach and referees structures, which the report indicates that it is a well-transformed structure. And then it talks to the medical and the scientific support base, and also again provides that detail. It says that the Federation's medical and scientific practitioner support structure comprise of 100% colored and Indian. In terms of physiotherapists, 54% Black Africans, colored Indian 46, white 0%, which is in line with what was just reported right now. In terms of the other categories, it talks to the sports psychologist and gives a breakdown. Again, I won't read through it, Chair. I am sure members have seen this. And it then gives an indication that, as was the case in the charter categories listed in the previous slide or above, the medical and scientific categories, they bear little resemblance to the Federation's recently reviewed barometer forecast to 2030, which does reflect an unchanging target over the period. And then last but one is the school structure, which says that the number of participating table tennis primary and secondary schools that were reported in 2019 was 2,720 and 2,481, reflecting a high percentage, 21% of the participating schools. And then it talks to the club structures and says that there is an increase in club members. Lastly, Chair, in conclusion, is that 67% barometer target was achieved. That's the last slide, Chairperson, in terms of the overview from the department. I'll hand back to you, Chair, or I don't know whether you want to then hand over to the President.
Yes, it must be like that, Doctor. The President.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Simpiwe. I hope the freezing of your slide won't prevent you from taking this down, please, because you need to take this one down. But meanwhile, I am handing over to you, President Karim.
Thank you, Acting Dr. Khumalo.
Yes, Doctor.
I'm not so sure if I can share, Chair, it says host only.
See what?
I say
We can't see your
I can't share. I can't show presentation, it says host only.
Okay, please, so assist President, so.
Okay, I've got it now, thank you. Once again, good morning, Honorable Chairperson, members of the Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee and members of the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. And Chairperson, I hope you get better. So we've just basically done an overview of our governance structure and what we've been doing, and we will report against that. I think just one comment to make around the audited financial statements that was sent to the department, because we had our General Council meeting in July, and after the General Council meeting that financials were sent. So if there's any question on finances, we could possibly take questions on that as well at a later stage. Although it's a part, I've not included it as part of our presentation right now, but we do have it at hand if required. So these are the areas that we will cover in terms of a table of contents. I'm not going to dwell on this now and just move on. So our mission is for the SCDB to inclusive as the controlling body of South Africa, to produce lifelong participants and produce acclaimed champions through structured leagues and competitions from grassroots to international. And we'll do so by administering our sport through good governance. Our vision, and this, we are due to have another strategic planning session. Obviously, through COVID, we've not been able to go that route, but it's due for update. So our vision is to provide a vibrant and successful environment that promotes and supports accessibility and active lifelong participation in table tennis at all levels, while striving to identify talent and develop champions. This is our executive that's part of this meeting today, and I have introduced them earlier on. We have been registered as a PBO since, well, many years back. I think it was, I can't really remember, and recently also registered ourselves as an NPO, so that we can do a few more additional community-driven initiatives through the NPO registration. We haven't done that yet, but that is our aspiration. The stakeholders that we have, we obviously are governed by the rules and regulations of the International Federation, and we are key members of the International Table Tennis Federation, consisting of 227 member countries that's affiliated to the ITTF. We also have on the ITTF leadership, Ms. Ajira Kaji, who is the Gender Commissioner for the International Table Tennis Federation, and I am a board of director of the International Table Tennis Federation. The African Table Tennis Federation, we've been a member since inception, and Ms. Ajira Kaji is an executive member. She's the treasurer of the African Table Tennis Federation. Then we have the Commonwealth Table Tennis Federation, also a member for since our unification. That's just around about 95. Sorry, not 92, 93. And Ms. Audrey MacDonald, our current treasurer, is also the treasurer of the Commonwealth Table Tennis Federation. The African Union Sports Council is the president of the African Region 5 is Ms. Ajira Kaji. And then obviously we regularly send in our reports to the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. We also have a very good relationship with SESCOC, our mother body. And then we've had successful applications in the past with the National Lotteries Commission. We still have one project to finish off, which is on women's development, I think it was. And then we have a long-standing relationship with a international company called STAG, who's been supporting us with tables and table tennis equipment. So in terms of our national demographic profile, as can be seen by the profile that we have here, we have a fairly inclusive national executive, as well as the additional members that form part of our commissions, etc. In terms of training we've done for the current period, we've got club coaches, 124, of which 50 were females and 74 males. I think possibly what we could offer later on is maybe a demographic profile, but essentially most of our programs are done within the disadvantaged communities. Similarly with the basic umpires, there's 12 females and 34 males. And this was also towards the preparation for the International Umpires Exam, which was completed now in September. We'll get the results shortly, which we can possibly share later on. In terms of the final numbers that qualify, that actually wrote the exam and that may have passed, that we will definitely do. The basic referees course that we've done is a national program that we've embarked on to ensure that we increase the number of people that can officiate and run championships in all parts of our country. We have 12 advanced umpires that were sitting for the IU, which I've just referred to. That's the international exam, and we await the outcome of that. We currently have around 100 international umpires. We have 95 level 1 coaches, 8 level 2 coaches, and 2 international referees. it takes it's quite a mission to get level 2 coaches and international referees. So we're quite pleased with what we've achieved so far. In terms of national teams that participated in championships, we've participated in the African Senior Championships in Cameroon. We've had one standing para athlete, Mr. Theo Kogel, who plays in the category 12 para division, and his highest ranking was number 17 in the world. Going into the Tokyo Olympics, he was around about 27. And here I just need to say that if we have Mr. Kogel participating in more competitions, his ranking would have been higher, but most of our para competitions are either in Europe or Asia. And so obviously each time we do have to go out, it is quite costly to ensure that there's participation by our athletes. And it must be noted that all our athletes who participate internationally are funded by the SATTB and not by the athletes themselves, which we often hear about. So if we don't have the money, then our athletes do not participate. They also participate in the African Youth Championships in Tunisia. We mentioned, Simpiwe mentioned the regional championships in Johannesburg. It was held at the new center in Brixton. This was originally scheduled to be held in Durban, but this was after the flood. We felt it was better just to move it because we saw the plight of people and the fact that a number of the facilities were being used to house people affected by the floods. Then we had our teams, both male and female, participate at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, followed by only our women's team that qualified to participate in Chengdu in China in the World Championships. In terms of school sport, our school sport structure is currently an associate member of the SATTB. We believe that it would be better suited that the schools committee be a complete unit within the SATTB and not as lone standing associate member, but that is something that we would like to address after we've had our new strategic planning session. But essentially, there is a very good working relationship with the school structure, and there's a great deal of oversight in all the activities and joint planning of the activities held within the school sports program. We also have joint representation at all DSEC meetings that pertains to school sport. So it's our school sport members are normally accompanied by the Vice President of Administration to ensure that whatever we agree upon in those meetings are actioned by the organization supported by the school sport structure. So they've had 2 national meetings, and these were physical meetings that were held, and essentially it was basically looking at their plans for the year and the kind of activities that they wanted to embark upon. We jointly have supported with the hosting of coaching capacity building courses. And essentially, each time we host these courses, we have a minimum of 30 educators that we expect to attend. So we've had coaching and technical courses. We've had a competition management seminar. There were a number of educators who attended the basic referees courses that we mentioned earlier. The umpires educators are also drawn into the international umpires exam, and as you can see, 4 females and 9 males set for the international exam. And then the talent nurturing training camps, these are held, and then especially talent that's been identified during the National Schools Championships are brought on board and nurtured. We currently have a few that has been knocking on the national door, and in fact, one girl from Monsterless made the national team as well, and the talent actually came out of these National Schools Championships. Then obviously our equipment distribution program, both through the support of the funding given by the Department of Sport, as well as our own, is an ongoing program. So that table here just shows the distribution of tables to the various provinces and their schools. And there's quite a great deal of consultation that happens here to ensure that the schools are taken to identified schools, at least the tables are taken to identified schools, and there's some support structure in place that enables people to actually use the tables. In the past, we've had tables going to schools and nothing coming out of it. So there's a great activation around that. Then in terms of the clubs that we have, and by and large, our club structures are more in the metro section, metro areas, and the called more rural, semi-rural areas. You find that the competitions there are driven by training and tournament, or smaller tournament initiatives. So we have about just over 1,000 clubs. We have 24 affiliates, and these 24 affiliates are basically district members. We're in all 9 provinces have a presence, and then we have 5 associate members, of which School Sport, the SANDF, the veterans are members of, and universities are members of the organization. We have the following structures that govern our operations, and essentially the highest body obviously is our General Council, the National Executive being empowered to run the day-to-day activities. We have our provincial affiliates as a coordinating structures. In some areas where we do not have sufficient functional regional structures, we have a provincial affiliate that ensures that the provincial programs are functional. As I said, we have our regional affiliates and we are striving to finally get 52 regions totally active, but that's an ongoing program that we have. And then, as I said, we've got our associate members. The meetings that we've had, we've had our General Council meetings. Our AGM is normally virtual. The General Council for 2022 was also a hybrid, and this last meeting, now the AGM, was a virtual meeting again. We're obviously now hoping that all our meetings going forward would be hybrid meetings. It seems to be the most popular approach right now, given the funding challenges that we have within the organization broadly. We have fairly regular executive meetings, and as you can see, they have all been virtual. And soon we'll also be able to have hybrids for that purpose, but we've been working fairly well with the virtual setup through our Zoom structure. In terms of our commissions and committees, we have our National Coaching Commission, which consists of 2 African males, 1 colored male, 1 colored female. The Technical Commission, as can be seen, 1 each. Sorry. The Competitions Commission, 1 white female, 1 colored female. Actually, it was 2 colored females and 1 African male. The Transformation and Inclusion, 1 African female, 2 African males, and 1 Indian female. The Medical and Science Committee has 2 African males, 1 Indian female, and 1 African females. Just a comment around the Medical and Scientific Committee. This is one area that was outlined as a weakness within the organization. And so it's a new commission that has been established, and we're still working our way around ensuring that there's good inputs from the committee. So we're still finding our feet there. The calendar of events for 2023. We will be hosting the World Table Tennis Contender, which is a precursor to the World Table Tennis Championships to be held in May. The dates have been set for the 10th to the 15th of January. And by and large, the funding and equipment is some of the equipment is our own, and some of the equipment is brought in by the ITTF. So essentially, the ITTF has funded by and large the bulk of this, but we're still pushing ahead to see if we can't get one or two local suppliers on board. So it's been a challenge, but we have no choice but to do this. And I think I'll speak a bit more about why we're doing the World Table Tennis Contender and why we're doing the World Table Tennis Championships, because I think it's the first time we're speaking to the portfolio committee, and it's important that we speak through the issues that confront the development of table tennis in our country. The ITTF African Youth Championships has been scheduled for Madagascar, previously postponed because of COVID, and we're hopeful that this championships will now go ahead in Madagascar. They've also had challenges of their own, and so while it's been put forward again, it may be moved to one of the other countries if Madagascar cannot host. The World Championships in Durban at the Durban ICC, that will be from the 20th to the 28th of May next year. Now, the SATTB bid for the World Championships in 2020. And at that time, that was before COVID really hit us. And it was it was 2019 September, I think it was. And then COVID hit us and obviously put everything on ice. And so when we finally got through the major part of COVID, we went to the World Championships in Houston in December 2021, which was a similar championships to the one that we will be hosting in May, and had long and extensive discussions with the ITTF about possibly either moving the dates or giving off the World Championships to others, because we were hamstrung with moving on the on these championships, particularly with respect to garnishing support from the corporate world. Now, one of the reasons why we actually pushed to bid for the World Championships was essentially to locate table tennis as a sport within the country. The challenges that we have, and I think a number of the so-called minor stroke Cinderella sports have in this country, is a lack of coverage, both particularly in the mainstream media, and also within the corporate environment. And therefore, it was important to showcase table tennis to our country, where we can highlight the facts of table tennis as a major sport globally, the fact that it has more members than any other international federation in its 227 member countries. And so if we look at the popularity of table tennis both in Europe and Asia, also note that all 54 member countries on the continent has a table tennis presence, then clearly there is a need for us to change the narrative around table tennis in our country and in our continent. And so this championships represents an African bid on when we note that in 1939 was the last time we actually held a competition, a world competition on the continent, and that was in the formative years of the ITTF, when they had just a handful of countries. So this is the first real effort by an African country to host the World Table Tennis Championships. We were also part of a group of people that moved towards the reduction of the size of the World Championships. In the past, it was quite a massive operation where over 100 member countries would come and participate. And we had different divisions within the World Championship structure. So if we look at all of that, it was critically important for us to host this event and hopefully turn around our fortunes in the country to have sponsors that will take table tennis to the next level. We have seen quite a number of success stories on the continent, and that is only through the investment of the ITTF in some of the countries, and especially the northern regions where it's easy for people to participate in Europe. We currently have, in the form of Umar Assar and Hannah Gouda and so forth from Egypt, and we also have Nigerian representation and recently Senegal. So these initiatives are only happening as a result of the investment and opportunities across the region to Europe. We are too far from Europe to have ongoing activities in and out of Europe. So each time we go to competition, it costs
Try
us.
to be faster. You left a few minutes to round up.
Okay, so sorry then. Okay, let me fast track then. We spoke about the AUSC region that we had here. Botswana will host next year's one. The SA Junior and Senior Championships, which is an annual program, will be held in Cape Town next year. We are awaiting the Cape Town bid. Then we will be going to Ethiopia for the African Senior Championships. And then we have our annual Para Championships. So I'm not going to go through this full presentation. Suffice to say, I've spoken about our bid. That was just the outcome of it. So this whole presentation now, chairperson and members, essentially speaks about our bid. So I'm not going to go through it. I think you've got it. And given the fact that I'm warned about time, I'm going to try and draw most of this to an end. But suffice to say that the new approach is around social media, and the ITTF is one of the leaders with respect to how they present our program. You can see all of that now. So part of what we're doing now is also this is our logo that you see in front of you for the World Championships. And we're now putting together a range of items, and we will be calling for merchandising companies to host and to put forward our initiative. We've put forward our proposals to, when we started bidding, we had agreed with KZN on the approach. We've put that forward. To date. We've not made much inroads, but there is a fair amount of inroads from the ITTF. So obviously we would expect some kind of support from the department, and we've had some discussions around that. It's unfortunate that we don't have the minister and deputy minister here, because it would also help us to get their attention on our presentation and the way forward. But I'm not going to dwell there. The administration, well, this is all support. I'm not going to dwell there. I think the only issues I still want to speak on is the fact that we are now towards the end of our preparations, and as we host the contender event in January, that will be our test event. What we would also want to speak on is the fact that we were hoping that the matter around us being the code of the year for 2020 would have been raised again, and that we would get a way forward on that. So that will conclude our presentation, Chairperson. Thank you very much for allowing us.
Thank you, President. Let me report that DM joined us. The Deputy Minister is with us.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much.
Honorable members, this is the time for the deliberations of the board presentation. Now I'm giving the chance to honorable members. I've seen the hand of Honorable Zondi. And of Honorable Sibia. Honorable Dennis, Honorable Mhlongo, in that order, honorable members, okay, now I give it to Honorable Zondi, the platform. Good morning, ADM. Welcome in the meeting.
Morning, Chair. Hope you get better. Thank you so much.
Better than last week, and DM. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and Deputy Minister and the department and all the colleagues on the platform. Chair, two things quickly. Welcome the presentation from the department and from the Board of Table Tennis. Chair, firstly, we wish to welcome and congratulate the South African Table Tennis Board for the landslide win of the bid with the margin between South Africa and Germany contest for the 2023 World Table Tennis Championship. We hope this will bring social, political, and economic benefits for the country and the promotion of table tennis sport in general. Chair, I have quick questions thereafter. The first one, Chair, most of the training, particularly of club coaches, basic umpires, and basic referees are males with a 65 difference to females. What has contributed to the relatively low uptake of women's training, and what strategy and plan to increase the number of women trained? The second one, Chair, what is the geographical and racial composition of the training undertaken during 2021-2022 by South African Table Tennis Board? How inclusive is the process of identifying persons to be trained? The second to last, Chair, is, Chair, it is encouraging to note in the board's equity and redress plan that one of the areas of redress that it has implemented is equal prize money for men and women. And we wish to commend the board for that. The last one, Chair, the ITTF World Table Tennis Championship is taking place in the approximate 6 months' time. Can the board give the committee a synopsis of its marketing and communication strategy leading up to the event? Social media accounts seem to be fairly inactive, with the last tweet made in July 2022 and the last Facebook post in September 2022. These are both low-cost ways of creating hype around major events such as a world event, and the board should consider using that. But we wish to know, why are they so low in terms of using those two communicating strategies?
Okay, thank you, Honorable Zondi. Honorable Spear.
Okay, thanks, Chairperson. Morning to everyone. Thanks for the presentation on table tennis board. I would like to know how will the championships benefit the continent beyond the domestic impact in South Africa? And the other one, which local brands will the South African Table Tennis Board identify? And on the empowerment point of view, can the South African Table Tennis Board identify local brands where whereby it can promote as a socio-economic empowerment approach. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Sibia. Honorable Dennis.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, all, and thank you for the presentation. I'll switch my video off, Chairperson.
Thank you.
I would like to know, first of all, to the department, if in terms of the heading of the presentation, I would like to know what infrastructure projects they are busy with between themselves and table tennis. I also want more clarity on under the financial support. There was an area called Southern Regional Championship. I just want to know what that definition means, what area or geographical area or provincial or Africa. I'm not too sure where it fits in. And then, of course, I want to know if there were no funding given to the table tennis between April and now. How do they cope? How do they do their work? Or was there funding given to them? According to my understanding, there was no funding. So I just want clarity on that, Chairperson. Then there was also mixed reporting in this presentation. You know, some events was 2023 and some is prior. I would like this sort of mixed reporting and on the highlights and the achievements. And I think we should just separate the future events from the current or the past events. Chairperson, I also under the EPG report, I would like just to know more about the transformation to the 2030 targets. I also want to know what's our world ranking. I heard it was 6th, I think, in Africa. And then I would like to know if there's a standard from the department, if it's a standard harassment policy, or what they call it, anti-harassment policy, so that all entities, I think sports, arts, culture, all organizations should be able to use it from a basis that the department set, and then everyone entity or the department can then, divisions can then further look at fine-tuning it to the environment. And then, Chairperson, I would like to know if there's partnerships besides the university, UP, if there's any other partnerships. I also want to know all the outstanding financial documents as indicated in the presentation, if that was now forthcoming, when it will become, if it was not handed in yet. And then I noted that efforts on transformation, the redress, but I think transformation, Chairperson, from where we come from, an area of exclusion, we move to an area of inclusion. And sometimes I think we almost go, you know, from one extreme to the other extreme, and we don't have a balance on that. But it also depends the interest on cultural groups into the sports. And I think what I want to know is what efforts are being made to bring more people of all walks of life, communities in the provinces into the sports. And then I would like to know what is the biggest venue, the best venue in South Africa, if there is if it is Durban. Is there any other international venues in South Africa that can host table tennis on that level? Thank you for now, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Dennis. Honorable Mhlongo.
Thank you, Chair. Check it well. I welcome the presentation. I wanted to find out from the department, what is the hold here, EPG? What causes the hold? What are the challenges? Can you tell us more? Does the board has a developmental plan for them to roll out the available online? I think Mr. Zondi has covered me. The marketing part, I think it's poor. First time in this committee member, as a committee member, I'm not aware that there's a World Cup coming next year in Durban. It's shocking to see. Wanted the board to be honest to us. Do you feel that you're getting more support from the department? I think we need honesty on that level, Buti. Do you see that there's there's financial support, but do you think there is support or any gap that we can talk about? Chair, I wanted lastly, what are the challenges, especially in different schools, public schools or private schools, to get any challenges to access the school regarding the facilities, to use their facilities? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Flo. Honorable Mamabulo, welcome back to work. Honorable Mamabulo. Honorable members, can I ask some questions? I don't know what's going on with the Honorable Mamabulo. What is the estimated economic impact on the World Cup as you are hearing now for the first
My
time?
hand is also up.
Who's that? Who's that now?
It's
Honorable Adams, I think.
Miss Adams, Madam Chair.
Ma'am Adams, you must not just speak. I was in the platform. Whoever is in the platform must wait. I was still on a question. What is the estimated economic impact of the World Cup, and how does the board intend to leverage the championship to support local entrepreneurs and small business? And then the second question, the international competitions attract global attention and tourism to the country and can have a significant development impact. How is the South African Table Tennis Board planning to promote our local arts and culture, particularly in recognizing the rich and engagement of competition in various social media platforms during the World Table Tennis Championship? And does the department and the board have a strategy in this regard? I'm suspecting really we don't know how that we're hearing this for the first time, especially from your department. Is the South African Table Tennis Board working with the tourism department to develop a tourism strategy for the country and at a provincial and municipal levels? Let me go to Honorable Mamabulo. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Chairperson.
Yes.
Mine is on the teams that are playing. I see they have 25 in my constituency of Limpopo. I'm trying to check which teams are, where are they based? Is it in rural areas or townships? And then the other question is that how best can we assist them to expand table tennis? Because now I remember I played it at school at some stage, but nowadays I'm no longer seeing it being played in the townships and other areas. How able to assist them to expand it? The other issues with regard to their international, what you call competitions, or the kind of sponsorship there, how are they being supported by government and other stakeholders? The last question will be with regard to the social responsibility project in the country. What kind of impact are they making? This will be my two questions, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mamabulo. Honorable Adams.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Adams is having a problem of network, honorable members.
Chairperson, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to Chairperson and the members of PC, staff of the DSEC, and to the tennis board. Chairperson, I have a few questions. My first question, in the board's presentation, they list a number of stakeholders, which include the National Lottery Commission, while DSEC indicates that it supported the board on the tune of 1.45 million for the 2021 and 2022 financial year. The board should give the committee a broad overview of its total revenue versus total expenses. What financial support, if any, is provided by the stakeholders? Is the board financially supported by any of the provincial governments? And then, Chair, how many elite athletes are currently supported by the board? The next one, Chairperson, is on why does the sport have a skewed racial distribution with a minority of Black African and no white players in the national male senior and underage teams, youth group, and the national female senior and underage teams, which is Black African and white players? And does the board think the current composition of the teams promote nation building and social cohesion? My last one for now, Chair. What is the estimated economic impact of the World Cup? And how does the board intend to leverage the championship to support local enterprises and our Chair? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Adams. Can honorable members, before you respond, I'm not yet sure when did we get the report of EPG, but I'm not talking about that. Regarding the Eminent Persons Group report for 2019, the board, today the board indicates an absence of support physiologists. What steps have been taken to address this? What resources does the athlete support program draw onto the support athletes in its high performance program? Also, in your strategic plan, the board notes that High Performance Center at the University of Pretoria is providing the required services at the elite level. Can the board please provide further insight into this partnership between themselves and UP, including its successes and challenges? Thank you, honorable members. We'll take follow-up questions. So far, let me give it to the President and to the department in turn. Thank you. President.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll try my best to answer everyone's questions. But thank you very much for the input and questions, because I think it's, as I said, it's probably long overdue that table tennis comes and meet with the portfolio committee to put forward who we are as an organization. It is also obviously very, very disconcerting to note that that no one knows about the World Championships, and yet there was quite a bit of a hurrah, particularly around the margin in which we beat Germany, and it was actually seen as sweet revenge for the football disappointment we had when we beat the first time. But nevertheless, in terms of our strategy around women's participation. There are a few challenges with women's participation, and in the main has been the challenges around safety at some of our league competitions. And so because we played at night in the metros, that has been a hindrance. But our own strategy itself is about looking at access to venues, because that is the biggest problem for table tennis in the country. Access to venues, we've had schools is almost a no-go area in most cases, because it's seen as a private property. And I'm speaking about, I'm not speaking about private schools here. I'm speaking about our government schools where we do not have access to that. But the social benefits, if I must just drift a bit on the World Championships, after the when we hosted the 1 year countdown event, which was held in Durban at the Moses Mabhida Stadium, that was followed up by part of our legacy project, which is about social cohesion, and that was held at KwaMashu Indoor Sports Center. And immediately thereafter, there was also a table, two concrete tables that were built outside of the venue. And it's our view that if we can immediately first focus on KZN, because that's where we're hosting our World Championships, and ensure that we slowly roll out these social programs that we have embarked upon. And that's why I said we went the route of registering our organization as an NPO as well, so that we can try and leverage funding on from other sectors to provide the social impact that our sport can do. Table tennis is a very easily accessible sport. I think it was member Mama Bola who said he played a bit. So most people have played our sport at some stage in their lives. The efforts to then take that and make sure that we present opportunities for participation as a first step, and thereafter for inclusion in competitive sport, that is the way we want to go. We've always had equal prize money from our inception, and perhaps I just need to drift back to the unification of the South African Table Tennis Board and the South African Table Tennis Union in 1990. And the premise of that unification was, one, that the non-racial SATTB at that time, who was a member of the International Table Tennis Federation since 1956, retained that membership, and that the unification would respect that membership. Through that period, we also supported the social, at least the exclusion or isolation of South African sport in the international arena. So the coming together of the two saw a very strong focus on the promotion of non-racialism, but also recognizing the fact that the board as it was at that time, and particularly having taken decisions to align to the mass democratic movement in those early days, was cognizant of the fact that our footprint was not throughout the country and did not address the inequalities of the masses of the country. And that's the reason why that alignment was crucial for us at that time. The SATTB prides itself in its approach towards the most marginalized in our country, and that cuts across all social strata. So the fact that we see call it a low percentage of white representation was part of the journey at the time, because the strength of table tennis was located within our white table tennis counterparts in those early days, and the focus towards ensuring that we have persons from the Black communities come through was more of a targeted approach, where we had a quota system at the immediate inception of our teams of a 50-50 representation. And that saw through that the creation of opportunities of particularly our players in the metros. And that's why we see what we see here today. The only thing that I can raise around the representation of the 0% African, in fact, other demographics, is the fact that what we are seeing there is the teams that went to participate in the few championships for that year. It does not represent the picture of table tennis as a whole. For instance, at any of our national championships, you'll find that the majority of players in our championships happen to be Black African and colored with a smaller percent of white. And so that is generally what you will see in the South African Table Tennis Board. In the team that just went to the Commonwealth, our women's team was one African, 2 colored, and 1 Indian. So there's always been an in and out of our players. It is something that we find even with our junior teams now. I said earlier on, we had a child from Monsterless in our national team. So our footprint has expanded, and we find that because we've been able to uplift our coaching programs and extended our coaching footprint broader, that we are able to unearth talent in the areas where one would least expect it to come from. What we are now working on is the alignment of coach and athlete development as well. Whereas in the past, it was either the athlete or the coach, but now it's also to try and bring both through. The 6 months to go and the low media visibility is obviously a serious negative for all of us, but that is also aligned with the entire qualification program that has happened, and that's why there's been sporadic media coverage and social media programs around this. That will be ramped up now going through, and that will kickstart with particularly the contender program that we will host in January, and from then onwards it will ramp up with us identifying who the athletes are that are qualifying to come in, and there should be ongoing media as from January right through to May. In terms of the local benefit, we have now basically unpacked some of the suppliers that we would require, and we will have an RFQ sometime next week. We're just waiting on the ICC to confirm list of suppliers, etc. Within the competition itself, at the ICC, there is an area where we would have for exhibits of our arts and crafts, for wares to be sold, for local, and the ICC has a number of local suppliers that does the food and catering services there. So at the championships itself, there's sufficient opportunity for small SMMEs to be represented. In terms of infrastructure projects, there's been nothing specific with table tennis. Not a single infrastructure project has been embarked upon for table tennis as a specific venue. And that is the reason why I said that table tennis as a so-called Cinderella sport in the country enjoys very little support other than, in here, it's not something that one wants to target against the contributions we received from whether it has been the department or Lotto. And just as a point, provincial departments of sport will fund provincial activities and regional activities, not the national table tennis body at all. So that so in terms of infrastructure, we don't get anything. The support that we get has been essentially based on the fact that we were one of the 16 core sports, and given financial support in that with that in mind. As I said earlier on, we do have our annual financial statements, which I think can be sent to the portfolio committee immediately. I have asked our treasurer if she wants to maybe just list some highlights on our funding, which I think may answer some of the questions that were raised. The EPG report, we'll find that, as I said earlier on, the one weak area that we acknowledged immediately was the area of our medical, and we said what we're doing there. In terms of the representation, I think I've touched on why we have the 0%, because your teams essentially is made up of 3 and 4 persons. It's never more than that when we leave the shores of the country. So you'll find that in each year, the representation will shift from 25% African to 50% African. We've now have a young boy that's now 12, who happens to be white, or 13, who happens to be white, who's in our under 15 team. So there are changes afoot in terms of our demographic, and it will always be sporadic changes. It will never be constant. Our development plan is based on our acknowledgement that, by and large, our membership, the majority of our membership come from the poorest of the poor communities. And you'll find that only in the metros that there's some kind of funds coming through. But in our more, for instance, in Limpopo, our presence would be in Sikokuni, it would be in Capricorn. And so when I spoke about Monsterless and Jane First, we've had sporadic presence there, but no permanent venues for athletes to train in. And so if that support that is referred to is in the form of identifying facilities that we can access on an ongoing basis, we will be able to produce more champions coming from those areas. And we would welcome any support that members think that you could facilitate for us to get there. In terms of world ranking that was asked, we are number 69 and 70 for the males and females respectively in the world, and that's the reason why we were able to be invited for the World Championships in the women. The Region 5 competition, Region 5 consists of the SADC countries. In other words, the old Zone 6 countries, from Malawi down to South Africa. There's 10 member countries, 9 of them functional, with the exclusion of Mozambique. Mozambique has had some challenges after the African championships. And so they've been on and off. They have a presence in terms of discussions on development, but their structure is not functional. So the 9 member countries participated in the Region 5 competition that South Africa won in Brixton earlier in July this year. The best venues currently would be all these convention centers. We don't have sports halls that we can access on a regular basis. Some of the universities also have some good halls. We also, for instance, the University of Westville has got a big hall, but these things all come at a huge cost for us to access. So we don't actually have sports halls that's government sponsored, as it were, like you would have in the areas like Morocco or Egypt or any of the other countries. We're just far off in terms of having indoor facilities. So the things that do help us is the fact that we are able to use smaller venues for smaller activities, but our national championships are always a massive challenge because of the size of the event, and we don't have facilities suitable for it. We inevitably use the recently built indoor facilities, like the one in the Tempe Bay is also a facility that we've been using, and the one in Bloem that currently is okay. There's the one in Cape Town is the Bella facility that is relatively okay for us to use for national championships. So we don't have a vast, we don't have great opportunities to access venues throughout the countries. I spoke about the local entrepreneurs. There is a platform for that. We are also looking at, we're currently busy finalizing the complete layout of the ICC. The tables have been sorted. Most of the working venues have been agreed upon. We have all the lounges for VIPs, for players, for officials have been earmarked and targeted and positioned. And now we are also looking at the space that we have, and it is quite tight for exhibits and our sponsors. So that's a way of looking at, there's a corner called the grass area or the green area at the ICC, which we are targeting as having almost like a fan park of sorts. And hopefully that will also help us promote our local arts and culture heroes. In terms of listing of the stakeholders and our finances, we always list all our stakeholders, whether they gave us 5 cents or whether they gave us 5 million. But all our stakeholders are normally listed because they significantly contribute to our existence. And so, yes, we've had some, as I said earlier on, our funding from the department is based on us being recognized as a core sport. The funding that we got from Lotto was specifically to promote our gender program for women's sport. And we've had some activities against that funding already. And we now we just need to conclude on the funding. And if you need a report on that funding, that we can also give. The elite athlete support is very much dependent on amount of funds available to us. What we did do, though, is we spent a significant amount of funding to get Mr. Theo Kogel to qualify to participate in the Paralympics. And as I mentioned earlier on, his ranking justified the need for us to spend money in getting at least one athlete participating at the Para Championships. So a great deal of funds went in that direction. But on an ongoing basis, the little that we do is to have national programs, whether it be training, coaching programs, and that support then goes to the athletes. We do not give direct funding support to any athlete, but it comes in the form of us sending them off to a training camp, championships, or something like that. Our skewed racial representation, I think I've spoken about that based on what you see at the national level versus what you will see at local level. If you go to, and it's also, the demographic profile is also linked to the location of some of our structures. So in other words, if you go to KZN, you'll find that the majority is African. If you go to Cape Town, the majority will be colored. And then if you come into, say, Gauteng, it's fairly balanced because of the nature of where the clubs exist. If you go to Northwest, it will be majority African, and so it goes on. So it is quite, it's not skewed, it is representative of where we find ourselves, but it is also about how we expand in that, so in the different environments. The estimated economic impact, essentially, we're saying that if one looks at the budget for the World Championships, it's around about 70 million. And that 70 million, by and large, will be generated externally by the ITTF and the broadcasting that they would have. The one thing that one must also note is that the broadcasting of the World Table Tennis Championships is in particularly the Asian countries. For instance, Japan will come with their own crews, and they will run the event and ensure that every match on one table is generated through to Japan. The whole of Europe would be watching the World Championships. The whole of the Americas, both North and South. Oceania will be watching it. So the reach through the World Championships. In fact, the recent World Championships held in Chengdu, where they had they were in lockdown, total lockdown, and our teams were in a bubble. That championships was screened on SuperSport as well, and all countries where SuperSport has a presence on the continent were able to access and view the World Championships. So the extent, I'm sure once you quantify all our benefits through this, both from a sports tourism perspective, as well as sending the signals of a working African continent, a South Africa where the ICC and the beauty of Moses Mabhida Stadium is on the screens across the world, will show that there is more to see within our country, and so also enhance the tourism impact that we would want to have. We are going to a summit now in Amman. Now, firstly, let me say that the bidding process was quite extensive and we've seen the activation program during that period of bidding, and the focus on Durban was timely. The Song of Jerusalem was timely, and so the world, and those are the things that helped us win as handsomely as we did during the bid. We are now at the next phase, which is finally showing people and inviting people to our country. There's already been a strong take on people wanting to get our packages, and that is what we're going to be finalizing in the next couple of weeks in terms of the actual packages for the event, because the fans that come with the Germans, etc., those and the Japanese and so forth, they want to know what special packages can be given to them to come in their droves. So we're quite excited about where we find ourselves right now. We know there's a lot of work at hand, and we obviously would call on everyone to support us as we move forward. Unfortunately, we are not netball, and we are not cricket, and we are not football. We are a minor sport fighting against all the odds to position our sport. So with that, I want to thank you for, and if I've not answered directly on some of them, bear with me, and we can possibly respond again in writing to the portfolio committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, President. And can I acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Minister? I wanted.
TTG, I'm not yet there. President.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, no, President, can anyone with you respond in some questions? Because you are not alone. You once said one who's CFO or whatever can elaborate. So I'm giving to anyone from your team want to add on before I'm giving the department.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll ask Ms. Audrey McDonald just to give the highlights on our funding, and then I will ask any of our members if they want to add any, if you would allow that, Chair, that they can show their hands and speak through you, Chair. But I'd like to hand over to Audrey McDonald at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Audrey.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you everybody for the opportunity to speak with you. Just to say that our funding comes mainly from the Department of Sport, from national lotteries. We also received monies from the Sports Confederation, the Presidential Economic Stimulus Package, to assist some of our participants. But we have, if you go percentage-wise, I just want to get my report here. We depend mainly on funding from other sources. We don't have sponsors at the moment because we're a Cinderella sport and it's very difficult to get into anything like that. We do get support from STAG. They supply us with tables and table tennis equipment, which comes on an annual basis. I think as far as the funding is concerned, we have very little of our own funding. Our own funding amounts to, just want to get my financials here. Our revenue, our own funding amounts to, this was for the 2022 tax year, was 166,000 Rand compared to funding from the ATTF, the ITTF, SASCOC, National Lotteries, and Department of Sport and Rec, 3.45 million. So you can see there's a huge imbalance in our own funding to the other funding that we receive. And we're very much dependent on other funding at this stage. All our other funding is obviously project-based because it's determined by lotteries and sport and recreation, and even the Africa Table Tennis Federation and the International Table Tennis Federation. Everything is for specific projects. So we can't use that for anything that we want to do ourselves to develop the sport. I think if there are any other questions, I'm quite happy to answer them. We try and keep our administration as low as possible, which is controlled by Mrs. Kaji, and she keeps that a very tight rein on that. We get very little funding from our tournaments, and in fact, invariably, we run at a small loss or a small profit. If there's anything else that anybody wants to find out about the financials, I'm quite happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Aubrey. Seemingly, there's no other hand from the delegation. Olensig.
Okay.
Yes. Go on.
Good morning, Chairperson, Honourable Chairperson. Perhaps I'm the Technical VP, Ms. Lens. I unfortunately logged on later than when the meeting started. But perhaps just to extend and to add on to what President has said in terms of, and the question was asked specifically about the basic referees course and why the Black African women numbers are so low. Because due to financial constraints, we started running the basic referees course online. We had 3 virtual sessions. And because in our rural areas and our township areas, and due to load shedding, there was this big struggle of connecting, and our sessions ran for about 4 to 6 hours, which is quite long. And so this became a challenge, but also to understand how officials transcend from becoming an umpire to becoming a referee. That needs to be understood, because if you look at the gender equity within our umpires, you will see that there is quite a few Black females there. So they first need to become competent in being an umpire before they can actually become a referee. And President has also highlighted that it is not easy to become a referee, an international referee. So our attempt was a vigorous attempt, and I think we will continue with this next year, is to train these to train more basic referees coming from the international umpires, and then preparing them ultimately to take up the international referees course, So we will be monitoring them over the next 2 years. And those who have done the basic referee scores, their names will then ultimately be logged with the International Table Tennis Federation to indicate that they are now basic referees and that they are being monitored for the next 2 years. And when I talk about monitored, I'm speaking specifically about our attempt for these referees to do duty nationally. So we have a ranking system, and within this ranking system, regions have the opportunity to apply for tournaments, and they get allocated points. And so specifically, they are going to be, they need to use these basic referees to shadow the senior referees in the country, because we have very little senior referees. And so there has been this very vigorous move to qualify more referees, basic referees first international umpires, basic referees, and then God willingly in 2 years, we can actually send off these basic referees to international referees courses, or have the course conductors actually come to South Africa and do it here, because it would be much cheaper for those course conductors to come to South Africa than to have our candidates actually go, because it is difficult. Most of these courses are being conducted in Asia and Europe, and financially we are unable to send everyone. As President has reported, we currently only have 2 international referees, of which I am one, and so I have been very blessed to have qualified, but ultimately we want to see more women qualify as technical officials. So that was just an add-on to what President has said. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Thabang. Thabang.
Thank you, Chair. I also believe the President has adequately addressed most of these questions. Actually, I can comfortably say yes, all of them. I am particularly concerned, Chair, about the issue on the response on the support from the department, as it came from Honorable Dennis Joseph, as well as Mr. Mhlongo. To say yes, we do enjoy support, and the department, we have been through, from the President acknowledging our win, and in this case, I'm referring to the President of the country, of the bid in 2020. I believe the President has highlighted what is the cost, as he was asked by you, the chairperson for this World Championship. He has reflected as to where it is, and seeing that we are about 4 months away, I don't know if at a stage one can say we having proper financial support. I know there are processes that are going forward, but I'm sure this is a matter that needs review. I'm raising this concern because we are at this opportunity with the presence of the Deputy Minister to say we need to fast track the processes that needs to happen, because I believe somehow we are hamstrung about some of the things, and unfortunately we haven't had any opportunity to engage or to check as to the level of the minister where we are going with the support that we must get. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Thabang. Dr. Kumal.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you, Chair. And
just a moment, Hajira, you raise your hand
Yes.
very later, but I'm sorry, Doc. Go on, Hajira.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good day to the honourable members and to our Deputy Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. It's great to have you with us. I think for the South African table tennis sport, the legacy that we want to see that we leave behind is an academy for our children that's going to be competing, where for the athletes it's going to be competing, but also the athletes that are coming through the schools championships, especially a special focus on African children. If we go back 10, 12 years, when we got funding from the Department of Sports and the National Lotteries Commission, we had an academy at the High Performance Center in Pretoria. We had our top athletes that were African athletes, and they competed and they brought medals for us. Unfortunately, those children then had to complete their studies, go back, and the academy was closed, unlike where Banyana could still stay behind at the academy. Our athletes had to go back to their communities. They come from the communities of Atteridgeville, Katlehong, from Soweto, so forth, and we lose them because they can't afford it. They can't go to the Model C schools. Most, in fact, 90% of our athletes, our membership is from communities and schools, public schools, and not Model C or private schools. So to address the demographics, we need support in terms of how do we give these young, talented athletes, like the president said, from confidence, from Limpopo, Mojafi from Free State, these young African girls and boys, how do we nurture and put them into a system where they are taken care of? And that's why I want to appeal. Can we get support for an academy after the after the world event? And that should be our legacy, not only for the able athletes, but also for our para-athletes. Thank you, Chair. So I hope this is taken up. That is what we would like to see as the legacy that we leave behind. Thank you.
Thank you. As Dr. Kumar is going to respond, and our Deputy Minister, I want to highlight that you must arrange a meeting with the Tennis South Africa board, as they are saying that they are not having a meeting with you. So I don't want to talk after the Deputy Minister. I'm just raising that, noting what they've been saying. Please do your best to call and have a meeting with them. I thank you, Dr. Kumalo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and pardon me for coming in there at the wrong time. I picked up about a set of about 4 questions, if I'm not mistaken, that were directed specifically to the department. My colleague, Mr. Ncube, would then address responses on those questions, and Lebogang would add if necessary, Chair. Simpiwe, over to you.
Thank you, PG, and thank you, Honorable Chairperson and the members of the Portfolio Committee. Honorable Chairperson, perhaps let me start off with the questions around the World Championships, and also just noting some of the responses that have come through. We have been in constant engagements with through the president to really address and work on the plans and the implementation of the plans for the championship. Honorable Chair, we need to note that obviously the hosting arrangement for the championship is such that we have as part of the core delivery mechanism, the Provincial Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, KwaZulu-Natal, plus the city of eThekwini. And obviously through them, there is then the activation of the other sister departments, particularly the the tourism department and the economic development of KZN. But from our side, there is work that we've been doing. I think the latest documents shared between the table tennis and ourselves was on the 8th, wherein we just reviewing and relooking at the project plan as well as the budget. We are going to be then embarking on a consolidation of this work together with the stakeholders in the province. So there is work in progress, and there is constant engagement as well that I can confirm, Honorable Chair. The questions, some of the questions raised touched on the infrastructure projects for specifically table tennis. Chief Director Mkhwera is also on the platform. He will be able to just speak briefly on that if there are any specific projects in this regard. But Chair, if I could go into the question on the policy on harassment, any standard policy. The department is working specifically on the safeguarding policy for specific projects and programs that the department is managing. In this case, your school sport program. But in terms of the rest of the federations, we have the approach is that the policies as driven by SASCOC on safeguarding, and that the implementation of that program would be the core, really. So from our side, we just expect each federation to have a safeguarding policy, which would address, amongst other things, matters of harassment. And that basically is one of the minimum requirements for us to be able to even have any discussion with the federation. So that is going fairly well, because we've seen that most federations have developed policies on safeguarding and are implementing their policies on safeguarding. So there is no specific policy as such that is developed by the department, except the decentralized development of policies by each federation. And ours is to monitor that such exists and such are implemented. The other part that I needed to touch on, Madam Chair, is on the just maybe to register an apology. In my presentation there was an error, and the only document that was outstanding until recently was the President's report, which is the annual report. But the audited financial statement had been sent and received by the department prior to the 5th of November. So that one I just needed to just correct. There was an error, Honorable Chair. The table tennis has since submitted the annual report after having convened their AGM on the 5th of November as well. The other question, Honorable Chair, related to the EPG and the EPG report, particularly in terms of the 2030 targets. What happens, Honorable Chair, is federations are often given an opportunity to review their targets, looking at the timeline or horizon of 2020. And in the review, the EPG will then look at whether the review targets are helping us in terms of achieving some of the, or addressing some of the deficiencies already picked up by the previous reports. And therefore, the report, the projections in terms of the reviewed barometer target speaks to that. And that's what is highlighted as one of the things that perhaps it requires further review, so that the targets can address the deficiencies already picked up. The other question related also to the EPG in terms of the delays in the release of the or the handing over of the report and the release thereof. There were a number of factors, Honorable Chair, which impacted on this work. EPG obviously is independent members, independent from the department. So by and large, they would do their work supported by the Secretariat, and the Secretariat being led by a director, which in this case, Honorable Chair, was the late Dr. Passon. So with his unfortunate passing, there were some technical glitches in terms of the finalization of the report, so that the EPG could then be able to consider it. And so we had to look for alternative ways and means of making sure that the report is still finalized. They are reviewing it, so it is technically finalized. It was finalized a while ago. It's just a matter of review to make sure that they are comfortable with it. So those are some of the reasons, Chair, that have led to a little bit of a delay in ensuring that this report is submitted first to the department as a final report, as well as published. Chair, trying to look. The other question, I think I have addressed it in terms of whether there is any cooperation or any plan to ensure that there is cooperation with departments such as tourism. I think I have covered most of the questions, Chair, that I've noted. I hope I have not missed any, DDG.
Yes.
Kumari. Thank you.
Before any other member from the department, DG or the Deputy Minister, I wanted that we must all note the contradiction of the answers, because Tabang complained and not complained, reported that the department doesn't meet, and now take note, DG and the Deputy Minister, that Simpiwe is reporting to us that consistently meetings have been taken with the department and with the president of tennis board, and the engagements have been going on. I wanted that it must be clear that if there's something which is questioned, we are listening and recording and on your responses, if any of you want to do further, because I was saying that when you are responding, you must respond. That's why Simphiwe is responding that you have been having engagements with the president, which means that's the report that we are getting. I'm raising this. Sometimes other entities, they will write to the chairperson saying that somebody lied in the meeting. So it's wise that we must all listen in the responses. And as a committee, we cannot say this one is lying, this one is not. We take what you are getting. I thank you. Sorry to do this, the interjection. Any intake, teaching?
Thank you once again, Chair, Mr. Mkhware. Would you want to contribute more on the responses? Through you, Chair.
Unmute, Mr. Mkhware. Yes.
My apologies. Chair.
No problem.
Thank you very much, TD, and good morning to the Honorable Chair and Honorable members of the committee, and greetings also to Minister and the leadership of Table Tennis and all the colleagues. I just want to make an input on the matter of the infrastructure with regard to table tennis. The clear-cut answer, Chair, with regard to the is yes, indeed, as a department, we have never allocated any project. As the Honorable Chair and Honorable members would know, that we do not necessarily build the facilities directly ourselves, but with the municipal infrastructure grant allocated to municipalities, we allocate projects for construction of sports facilities and identification of types of facilities to be constructed would normally be a subject of participation during the IDP processes of the municipalities. For the benefit perhaps also of the table tennis, we would somehow encourage that their structures at local levels do take advantage of that process, and their infrastructure needs are raised at those specific platforms for them to find expression in the IDP, because MIG cannot fund any project that is not reflected in the IDP. But be that as it may, because we have been made to understand that the table tennis type of a suitable infrastructure, it would be set up like an indoor sports facility. Perhaps one should indicate on some of the few indoor facilities, although they were not specific for table tennis, that we have built through this program of municipal infrastructure. And we have allocated such a infrastructure of indoor in municipalities like Makana, Ukhahlamba, and Richmond to list, but I'm confident that there is actually more than that. I was just quickly trying to harvest the information as the question was posed. But also moving forward, Mr. Mncube had indicated recently that there will be a meeting with all the federations, because our issue was that we cannot only be taking inputs from the municipalities or business plans from the municipality. And this was triggered by the question some time ago, which was asked by this committee. For a while, we've been building facilities, and they seem to be only catering for specific sporting codes at the exclusion of many other codes. And that question in itself triggered an idea that perhaps we should also now be consulting with the federations, because they seem not to be participating in those municipal processes, and try to establish moving forward their infrastructure needs to an extent that we ourselves as a department will find ways of including those the municipal IDs, and at the later stage be able to find them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, DG.
Thank you, Chair. I do not have anything else to add, but maybe just to emphasize that the last issue is also communicated through quite succinctly by Mr. Mukhera, I think it creates that kind of an opportunity for us to engage with the president and his administration around how we deal with these kind of issues. I think Mr. Mukhera has outlined the process that we follow in as far as infrastructural support is concerned. I just wanted to emphasize on that particular point. And I noted also, Chair, what you were raising around the issue of the contradicting information. Indeed, as Mr. Ncube has indicated, the department has given indication that there are continuous engagements that happen with the South African table tennis, and perhaps communicating that throughout the board then becomes important, Chair. From my side, I think I would rest it at that note, Chair. I do believe you will also give an opportunity to the Deputy Minister. Thank you, Chair.
Noted this stage. Who's Joe Karim? And then after Joe Karim, Mr. Mhlongo, this co-host. What do you want to say?
Thank you, Chairperson. Sorry.
Okay.
Have I got the floor?
Yes, President. Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to speak on the contradictions quickly. I don't think it's a contradiction. I think Mr. Thabang Tshediso is obviously concerned about the amount of progress we've made. As I think Mr. Ncube has quite clearly stated, on the 8th of November was our final set of correspondence, and we're having follow-ups on that. Our executive has been part, especially Mr. Tshediso, because he's the Vice President of Competitions, has been part of it. I don't think we can blame him. When we see the fanfare around netball, then he would like to see the same for table tennis. The only other issue I want to raise around infrastructure is the fact that while government funding goes into sports facility development, there's also the issue around access beyond certain hours. If you take the Brixton facility, for instance, you cannot play sport there beyond 8 o'clock. Now, it's nonsensical to spend 100 million rand on a facility, but you can only use it up till 8 o'clock. It just does not make sense. And I think we need to look at the utilization of facilities in our country. Otherwise, we are not offering our athletes an opportunity to prepare and excel in their sport. Thanks.
In future, we do listen if you are going to respond, which is very good, but we listen very tentatively what that question was. But thank you for the response. Honorable Mhlongo.
I think the president has covered me, Chair. I wanted to come with this contradictional statement, but nonetheless, last comment or question. What relationship do they have with Tennis South Africa? If any, can they give us more information? If not, why not? Thank you.
DG, before now, I'm giving to DM. That's the last question. DG, are you around?
Oh, okay. Chair, on the relationship with Tennis SA.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Mr. Ncube, you want to come in? I thought the question was directed to SATT. Sorry, Chair. Mr. Ncube.
No, thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Mhlongo. I think I wouldn't say there's a specific relationship given the fact that the two codes are fundamentally different in the nature, in their nature and how they're played. With obviously table tennis being predominantly can be played outdoors, yes, but predominantly played indoors for a number of reasons. including the dynamics of the equipment that is used, being a table as well as in a baton is very small. Then table tennis obviously being predominantly also played concrete courts or other surface courts. So I'm not sure whether, President, from your side, there would be any specific, but from our side, we really treat them as two separate entities as a department. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
President.
Thank you, Chairperson. No, there's no relationship between us currently. There could be a relationship between us and any other sport, and I think it's something that we normally do via the platform that CESCOC provides. But a direct relationship between tennis and table tennis, no. I think the only issues that would be similar would be, say, the stroke play, but table tennis is more quicker and on the table, reaction time less. So it's quite different. So we've not had a relationship with Tennis South Africa. It's something that I think in terms of discussions with particularly indoor sports like badminton and others, that we do have some discussions on and off as a way of sharing experiences. But with tennis, we've never had that. Thank you.
The leader of the department, which is DM, now that's you, Chance DM, to talk to us.
Thank you very much, Chair, and greetings to the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, the leadership of Table Tennis South Africa led by the President, and the officials. I just want to first appreciate, Chair, if you allow me to close off the video. I just wanted the members to see me. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I just first wanted to appreciate the questions and the clarities that have been asked by the honorable members from the reports that have been tabled, and to appreciate some of the things that they have lifted up, which, for instance, is the issue of the marketing of the coming World Cup of table tennis, that they feel that marketing is not good enough. And the President is confirming this, but in his confirmation is trying to compare table tennis to other sport codes by saying, yes, the fanfare is not the same as netball and other things. But I think what the Portfolio Committee was saying was that the marketing can still be improved. The other area that the members have really lifted up is the issue of the transformation, which I think it has been adequately answered. But I think for me, the important thing there is the fact that transformation is an ongoing project. We shouldn't drop the ball. I heard very well what the President said in terms of different areas in different provinces, that you would see more colors, for instance, in Western Cape, and more blacks in KZN and so on. But I think the point here is that transformation must always be an ongoing project. We shouldn't drop the ball and make sure that at all times, South Africans are represented across the board in all provinces, because the sport must be accessible to everybody, particularly table tennis, which at this point in time is one of those sports that could be easily trained in the townships. And I've listened to the fact that, Chair, there is a problem with the utilization of facilities. President talks about some areas that close at 8, inaccessibility in schools, which is something that the Federation needs to take up at the district level. Because remember, what the federations are present at district level, at provincial level, and at national level. And I think sometimes the mistake that we do as the federations is to want to deal with issues at national levels, and that sometimes they are easily resolved at a district level because that's where the challenges are. And if then there is no joy, they can then lift them up. Because I mean, the issue of the schools that is something that also the department can look at in terms of the relationship that we have with the schools and the school sport. We build some facilities in schools because of security, and we always put it clear that those facilities are for communities, even though they are built in schools. So I think SMPUA is noting this, and it's something that we can look at moving forward. I'm very encouraged about what the members have raised about the economic spin-offs of the coming World Cup and the events that are coming, because the importance here is that at all times, sport is not just about playing, but the role that it plays also in the economic uplifting of the country and in general of the people that they live in. Now, I heard Thabang, and much as this question has been answered, I think what probably Thabang was trying to say is that they have not had an opportunity probably to interface with the executive. They probably have the opportunity to interface with the officials at the level of SMPUA and everybody, but they have never had an opportunity maybe to interact with the executive, which is myself maybe and the minister. And I really want to say to Table Tennis South Africa, if there is anything that they want to discuss with us, they are free to raise that right to us. If they want to meet my office or they want to meet the minister, do that, because obviously we wouldn't know that you would want to meet with us because you have your channel through SASCOC and you are meeting with the officials. So there's nothing that has been lifted that says Table Tennis South Africa wants to meet the executive. But if there is that need, you are free to do that. I'm available. And you could raise that and you could ask to meet with us. I think probably that's where the problem was, that they want to have an interaction with the executive. And I hear that, and I really think that they are free to do that. And I also heard them, even though they didn't want to say it, they feel like they are not as important as the other federations because they are seen as small and ineffective. And I really want to reassure them that all federations are equal to us and all federations are important to us, because for us, our understanding is that South Africans would have access to different federations and they would have preference to different federations in terms of sport. And therefore, ours is to make sure that all federations are at all times able to give the support and support that is needed by South Africans there. So we wouldn't then see table tennis as junior to netball, as junior to soccer, because I heard that undertone when President and Thabang was saying, and I wanted to give that reassurance. You are very important to us. That is why the team is interacting with yourselves. That is why you are also getting funding to the department. But if there are areas of that you think that we need to improve on, feel free to interact with us, particularly my office, if you feel that you need to have that. I just wanted to clarify those things, Chair, and appreciate this meeting. And I'm very happy because we wouldn't have known that there are those feelings from table tennis that they feel that they are not as important if this portfolio committee didn't call this meeting. And I really appreciate that. Thanks so much, Chair. Thanks, Chair. I'm done.
Thank you, DM. That's the purpose of doing the oversight, as you have just outlined it. And thank you to the collective of the board of Tennis South Africa, that also you were just open to us in order that we must have this chance, that we must get these answers. I'm suspecting we do understand and know that this deputy minister who's just landed, she is responsible for this part of sport. So he's giving correctly the information that we are happy that is coming from horse's mouth, that there's DM and DDG Sumai, so do so. But it was a very, very constructive and informative, and even our good selves, we are learning to understand how you work, you interact, or on whatever you've said. I'm taking this opportunity to thank everyone in this meeting. Thank you so much, DM. Thank you, President. Now I'm coming to an end of this part of the meeting. The committee will continue with the rest of the agenda. Siyabonga, liyareboga.
Uyaleboga, Slalo. Please get better, Slalo, and thank you very much.
Thank you, DM.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you,
Thank you.
members.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, everyone. Yes.
Thank
you, much
Thank
appreciated.
you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
you.
It's all your last hours. Thank you very much.
Yes. Take them out. Honorable members, we know that there are those who are going to take the bus. Let's go to our minutes. Please write them. So, honorable members, these are our minutes. Yes, go up. Honorable members, these are our draft minutes, but before you interact, I must report that the documents which we wanted, I'll just ask that they must be circulated, because as we're coming to this meeting, this document were getting to my office, and I'm suspecting it's one of those things that were outstanding of all the requirements that we wanted to get, in order that we must read them and reflect on our Tuesday meeting. What do we want to do with the information? So I asked the office note. It was very late to get, and they were not all. So we do have now the responses from the relevant stakeholders that we wanted that they must respond and forward the information. I'm presenting these minutes to you, honorable members. Any support of or adoption of the minutes? Honorable Adams.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I go through the minutes and I couldn't find anything that is not discussed on the specific day. So I moved for adoption of the minutes of the 8th of November.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Honorable Sondi.
Thanks, Chair. I do second.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable members, on that note, the meeting is closed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much,
all.
Chair.
Thank you, staff, colleagues. Thank you all.
Amanda, Chair.
Speedy recovery, Chair.